In 1969, General Motors had a rule. No Chevrolet smaller than full size could have an engine larger than 400 cubic inches. The Camaro was locked out. Ford was stuffing 428 Cobra jets into Mustangs. Chrysler was building Hemi Darts, and Chevy's pony car was stuck with a 396. But two men from small-town America found a loophole buried in GM's own paperwork, and they used it to build what may be the most powerful factory Camaro that ever existed. Only 69 were made. The engine cost more than the entire car. Most of them couldn't even be sold, and today, a single one is worth over $1 million. This is the car Chevy didn't want you to buy. The story starts in La Harpe, Illinois. Population, about 1,200 people. This is where Fred Gibb ran his Chevrolet dealership. Gibb was a drag racer, and he'd been working with a man named Dick Harrell, a racer so devoted to Chevrolet that the racing world called him Mr. Chevrolet. When every other driver abandoned Chevy for Chrysler Hemis, Harrell stayed loyal. He won the AHRA Driver of the Year in 1969 and Driver of the Decade in 1970, all with Chevrolets, and no factory support. Gibb and Harrell had a dream. Chevrolet had developed an all-aluminum 427 cubic inch V8 for Can-Am racing. It was called the ZL1. This wasn't a street engine. It was a weapon from the world of unlimited sports car racing, designed for Jim Hall's legendary Chaparral race cars. The block was cast from aluminum instead of iron, which saved 100 pounds off the nose. It officially made 430 horsepower. The real number was over 500. With open headers, it could hit 575. Now here's the problem. GM's corporate policy said this engine could never go in a Camaro. The Corvette could have it. Full-size sedans could have it. But the Camaro was forbidden from getting anything larger than 400 cubic inches. End of discussion. Except it wasn't. Gibb and Harrell knew something that most people didn't. Deep inside General Motors was an ordering system called COPO, Central Office Production Order. It was designed for fleet vehicles, taxis, police cars, municipal trucks. Dealers used COPO to request custom paint, heavy-duty parts, special equipment for government contracts. Nobody at the executive level was reviewing these orders. It was paperwork, bureaucracy. But paperwork has power. Gibb contacted Vince Piggins, the head of product performance at Chevrolet Engineering. Piggins was the man behind the Z28. He loved the idea of a ZL1 Camaro. But he couldn't approve it through normal channels. GM's executives would shut it down instantly. So Piggins told Gibb, "Order 50 cars through COPO, and I'll approve the package. If it comes through the fleet ordering system, corporate will never notice." COPO 9560 was born. On December 31st, 1968 New Year's Eve, the first two ZL1 Camaros arrived at Fred Gibb's tiny dealership in La Harpe, Illinois. They were dusk blue, equipped exactly as specified. But there was a massive problem: the sticker price. Gibb had expected the ZL1 engine to add maybe $400 to the price. Instead, GM had a new policy. All research and development costs were passed directly to the buyer. The engine option alone cost $4,160. That was more than the price of an entire base Camaro. The total sticker hit $7,269. In 1969, you could buy a house for that. You could buy 2 Camaros and a used truck. 48 more ZL1 Camaros were delivered in March. Gibb tried to sell them. He managed to move 13. The other 37 had to go back to General Motors for redistribution to other dealers. And those dealers had the same problem. The cars were sale-proof. Some were stripped for parts. Some had their engines pulled and sold separately. Some were sold at steep discounts, just to clear the lot. In the end, 69 ZL1 Camaros were built. An ironic number for a 1969 model. Meanwhile, 300 miles east in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, another dealer was running his own COPO operation. Don Yenko had been hand-swapping 427 engines into Camaros at his family dealership since 1967. By 69, he convinced GM to install them at the factory under COPO 9561, using a cast-iron 427 instead of the exotic aluminum ZL1. 201 Yenko Super Camaros rolled off the line. They were slightly less powerful, far less expensive, and much easier to sell. But on the track, the ZL1 was untouchable. Stock, on street tires and factory exhaust, it ran low 13s in the quarter mile. With headers and slicks, Dick Harrell got it down to 11.6 seconds at 122 miles per hour. That was faster than a Shelby Cobra 427. And here's what made the ZL1 truly terrifying. From the outside, you couldn't tell what it was. No special badges, no stripes, no SS markings, no engine displacement callouts. The fenders didn't even have holes drilled for emblems. It looked identical to a base six-cylinder Camaro. It was the ultimate sleeper, 500 horsepower of Can-Am racing technology, wearing the disguise of a grocery getter. The ZL1 engine weighed only 500 pounds, the same as a small block 327. By ripping 100 pounds off the nose compared to an iron big block, it transformed the Camaro's handling. This wasn't just a straight-line weapon, it was balanced. The story doesn't end on the track. It ends in tragedy, and then in triumph. Dick Harrell Mr. Chevrolet was killed on September 12, 1971. A front tire exploded on his funny car during a race in Toronto, Canada. He was 33 years old. Don Yenko died on March 5, 1987. His Cessna 2-10 crashed during a landing approach near Charleston, West Virginia. He was 59. 3 passengers died with him. Fred Gibbs' little dealership in La Harpe eventually closed. The Copo loophole was sealed. GM dropped the 400 cubic inch restriction for 1970, making the whole scheme unnecessary. The era was over, but the cars survived. In 2020, ZL1 number 59 Hugger, orange, matching numbers, the only one ordered with chambered exhaust, sold for $1,094,000 at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. It was the most expensive Camaro ever sold. That record lasted 6 years. In January 2026, the very first Yenko Super Camaro prototype, the car Don Yenko used to prove the Copo concept worked, sold at Mecum, Kissimmee for $1,815,000, the most expensive Camaro of all time. To put that in perspective, a brand new base Camaro in 1969 cost $2,700. Today, a modern ZL1 Camaro starts around $70,000, but the original Copo cars occupy a world where those numbers don't even apply. Chevrolet has revived the ZL1 name multiple times. Since the 2012 Camaro ZL1, the modern Copo drag cars, limited to 69 units per year as a nod to the original. But none of them carry the same weight as the 1969 original, because the original wasn't built by a corporation. It was built by a drag racer, a small-town dealer, and an inside man who all believed the same thing. The rules were wrong, and the car they imagined was right. 69 cars, built through a loophole, sold at a loss, and worth a fortune. The Copo Camaro ZL1, the car Chevy didn't want you to buy.